Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. I can, all the intelligence agencies out there that monitor these kinds of things can tell you that I've never, ever sent a message on Facebook. When it first started, I started an account, realized I hated Facebook. The company, don't like Mark Zuckerbucks. So I deleted the account. But the account, once you create one, it always stays out there in cyberspace. And with my gun groups, that various people, they're older people in a lot of these shooting groups, they use Facebook a lot to communicate, and they wanted to send me some information, some pictures for some of the gun competitions we were doing. So I reactivated my account only to receive some information from them. I've only ever received information in Facebook, but I've never given any out. And I've never had a fake account where I act as somebody else and hide behind some alias. If I were ever to say something to somebody, I would do it to their face. I just don't do fake accounts. I don't hide. I'm very out front on everything I do. So that's not the way I do anything. And I have to say all that because Darby Bodie, the Lakota School Board member that had all kinds of issues because education reform was a challenge, and she was kind of the front of it, and there was lots of controversy about her. Well, she has a Facebook page where she talks about her political stuff, and she and I were catching up a little bit recently, and I found out about some actions that's going on her account, and there's apparently some person on her page named Lisa Winter, I think is what it is, and the people on there think that person is me. So they're interacting with that character, thinking that they've uncovered that it's really me hiding behind this character. And this is kind of a liberal thing to do. It's kind of the way that liberals think, the way that they have this psychosis of inward assumption. It's built on a premise of self-importance, where they think the world centers around them. And, I'd say that's a form of mental illness, but okay. I don't like education liberals. I don't like what they've done with the world. And anybody who knows me knows that one of my strategies is to be a ghost. I talk about management systems that feature being a ghost. You want to live in as many people's heads as you possibly can, especially if you find them as enemies. You want to be in all their thoughts. So I was kind of happy to learn about this interaction on this on Darby Bodie's webpage, because it tells you just to what extent I could be doing a million other things, but they're waking up every day thinking about me and trying to find some antagonizing way to push back or find some secret or push some button to get you to do something or say something that they can then use against you. Anyway, if I counted all the enemies I had and interacted with all of them, I would never have time for anything else. So I typically don't pay attention to it, as all these people were making me aware of what was being done on Darby Bodie's page. But what's interesting, and I think this is in relation to something that with Pete Hegseth's swearing in, I remembered his position on public education, which I think is important at this time, because you have a lot of Trump people coming in that have real good thoughts about the future of public education. So I've been trying to warn everybody about for quite a long time, which is what Darby and I were talking about. What's going on? What are you doing in public education these days? All these little bits. And I was telling her kind of where I thought things were going to go once Trump settled in and started doing his business, especially with the elimination of the Department of Education. So I think now that Trump is inaugurated and he's now back in the White House, a lot of these radical lefty people are really upset about it. They've really turned south, to say it nicely. And this activity on her webpage or on her Facebook page has increased. So I had some people sent me some evidence of it. I can't log in because I don't use it. I don't use the Facebook thing. So, I wouldn't know about it unless people told me about it. And what they showed me was this character, somebody on there. There's several characters, but one of them is this David Ehrlich, I think is his name, and he's a radical lefty. And when you do a little checking on him, back in 2010, quite a long time ago, he was a Lakota teacher, Lakota schools, northern suburb of Cincinnati, where Darby has been a school board member. And of course, I've been challenging the education premise at Lakota schools for a long time. So this guy was a teacher, and I think he's kind of the embodiment of the kind of people that are teachers. He probably has a little bit, a few screws a little bit too loose to not give the polite decorum that normally teachers do. But I think he represents what a lot of them think. So when you get in these public schools, what kind of people are you getting? And I think you get this David Ehrlich that expresses these radical leftist views in the current time. But back in 2010, 2011, he had to be removed, suspended, or taken out of the teaching profession for some reason. And it involved that he had inappropriate relationships with the children. And he made them feel uncomfortable, all the children. Not exactly the kind of vote of confidence you want from people who are supposed to be authority figures in the school. And if Lakota admits that much in writing, it's much worse, just like the issues we've had with the superintendent in the past, superintendents in the past, other teachers, other administrators. They have the psychological problems that are revealed in their politics. And then it's this dysfunction assumption that people who are broken in life are going to be able to have some sort of unwarranted merit. And those who call them out on it are those who challenge their self-assessment of excellence, when really they're diabolical losers who shouldn't be anywhere near children. When that illusion shattered, of course, they lash out and they're very angry at those people. I consider that to the people who are telling me about this stuff that this guy's saying about me on Darby's Facebook page. That's a win for me. I think it's wonderful. I want those kinds of people to hate me. I want them to wake up in the morning thinking about me. I want them going to bed thinking about me. I want them thinking every way they can to hate me. That's a great thing in my book, because we're not looking to all go have an ice cream together. Those people are the enemy. They're out there destroying our children. They're out there creating a political life that's bad for everybody, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. So I like it when they're upset. So I find it very interesting what I was being told was said on this page. But I think what it does more than anything is it shows exactly what Pete Hegseth was saying now that he's in charge of the military, and the direction the Trump administration in general is going, and why the Department of Education is going to be eliminated. It gives a good insight as to just the magnitude of the battle we're fighting. Pete Hegseth is famously known to have said, get your kids out of government schools. Now, for a long time, many decades, I was the only one saying that. And now many people are saying it. Now we're talking about mainstream people saying that. If you can sell the boat, sell the second home in Florida, find a way to financially afford it, don't send your kids to government schools. If you can find some way to avoid it, don't do it. And then people are like, well, what do I do with my kids? I need a free babysitter all day long. I can't afford a private school. I can't afford private tutorship. I can't afford to stay home and homeschool for kids. That's why Pete Hegseth was saying, do what you have to do to get somebody, one of the spouses, to stay home, homeschool the kids, mentor the kids, get them out of those government schools, because you have people like this David Ehrlich out there who are wanting to teach them. And it's quite common that he did get in trouble. Even, again, when Lakota schools or any public school is having to admit that a teacher's been inappropriately dealing with children, you've gone way too far, because they are very, very shy to admit something like that. Usually you have to really be detrimental damage has to occur before they ever admit it in the light of day, because of all the legal problems that it gets them involved in. So they deny everything. For this guy to get in trouble improperly dealing with children, and then to be so audacious and anti-Darby Bodie and anti-me, and trying to find ways to discredit the conservative movement and challenge it, and be so bad, be so angry at it, really just is because they can't hide what they've done and the kind of people they are, not just from themselves, but from society in general. And the only defense mechanism they have is to attack those who might judge them appropriately as being detrimental. But public education draws these kinds of people. And it's for a long time we've had bad standards that have allowed it to get out of control. I think it's going to get in control now. Now Trump's back in office. And when people like Pete Hegseth, who are, again, this is mainstream opinion now, they're telling you to get your kids out of public schools, you should do it. We have to totally rethink the whole public school structure, because there's lots of people. Now, I think that this David Ehrlich is back in teaching at Lakota. And I'd say that he's common, not unique, in the public education teaching profession. For a long time, nobody wanted to admit that the kids you had at school were being taught by diabolical losers and radical leftists, Marxists, Marxists in all respects, and that they have this dysfunctional policy because they're broken people that seek a social safety net to hide it from the world. And they use public education as a means to do it. And then you send your kids into the arms of these people. You can't be surprised when it all goes bad. And it has, and it did. And so when I was talking to Darby about where the future public education was going, where I thought it was happening, she's out there going and speaking at all these different venues all over the southern part of the state, even going to Columbus several times to talk about reforms needed in public education. She's very much still active, for anybody who wanted to know. And she was asking what I was going to do regarding. I said, well, I think my thing is I'm going to see, how long it takes Trump to get rid of the Department of Education, make school choice the way of distributing education to the network of children that's out there, and then making any state funding that's allocated go straight to the kid, not the zip code. And at that point, you're going to have a competition model that is going to change education as you know it. And people like this David Ehrlich are not going to be able to function in that environment, because these public schools aren't going to be able to hide all this information from the public through disclosure, because they're going to have to compete for those children if they want to stay in business as schools. And that's where it's going. That's where I know the Trump administration is. Now that it's back in power in the White House, this is exactly what's going to happen. And people have had to come to a hard point and say this is the nature of public education. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. And what it is pretty scary. And you have a bunch of people like that David Ehrlich guy out there that are making children feel uncomfortable in class because they had this assumption that they were in charge of your children, and you weren't around as the parent, and they had this radical leftist ideology to brainwash them into becoming future soldiers of their political movement. And they have this dysfunctional view of the world that as broken people themselves, they exhibit it to everybody else. And we're supposed to be happy with it. And that's not going to happen now that Trump's back in the White House. And people like this on Darby's page, and it's a local issue, so that's why I bring it up. I'm sure everybody has their own version of it in every community all across the United States. Everybody has some sort of relationship to this type of behavior. And these leftists, the radicals that have embedded themselves in the public education system, are very upset because they know it's coming to an end for them. And I say not a moment too soon. For a lot of people, it's a come lately thing, but the evidence is right there all across Darby Bodie's Facebook page and probably across ones that you're interacting with as well. The crazies are out there, and they are very upset now that they know that they're going to be smoked out and brought out into the light of day, and they're not going to be able to hide their indiscretions from the public anymore. And in a lot of ways, people like this David Ehrlich, as I heard about him and learned more because people were letting me know what was being said on that Facebook page about me, I get quite a lot of, I have a lot of fun with it because, again, from the ghost management method that I come up with, that I talk about a lot, you want to live in the head of your enemies. You want them being upset at you all the time because it reveals kind of what they're up to. And they show their cards for who they really are. When the system itself is built to protect them, which is what, in his case, it was, he was removed from the teaching profession for a period of time because he made students feel uncomfortable. And you can probably guess what all that involved. But he's still in the teaching profession. He still wants to be in the teaching profession. And he's the kind of people that they constantly defend in public education, school board members especially, because they're trying to go out there and get teachers, and the kind of people who apply are these kinds of people. And they tend to have ruined the entire attempt at public education because they're broken people themselves, and they can't do anything else in life but teach other people and people in a vulnerable state, children, with the assumption that they are masters of the universe because the public education system's propped them up and given them free money so they didn't have to compete to get it. They have to compete for their job anyway, so they've become corrupt and horrible over time, which is why the public education model failed so dramatically and why it has to be completely overhauled. And it's going to be overhauled with Trump. And now that his members of his cabinet are getting sworn in, Pete Hegseth being one of them, the open, it's not a secret anymore, the open understanding is that the Department of Education has to go. Public education has to be completely reconfigured, and as I told Darby, I think that's where the emphasis has to go. The money's going to go to these kids and not the zip code, and the schools are going to have to fight it out for competition and get better, and they're not going to be able to do that if they have people like this David Ehrlich on their staffs. It's going to scare parents away, not bring them to it. So they're going to have to naturally, by default, rein in the tyranny that these people bring to the children's lives. And that's the way that you fix a lot of these problems and keep those kinds of people out of your schools. It doesn't do any good to go lobby the current structure the way it is. You just got to get rid of it and rebuild it into something else, which is why they're so upset and why the rhetoric has increased so dramatically now that Trump has won and he's back in the White House, and they see an end to their life, and they're lashing out at everybody that they can blame but themselves for causing that to happen. And I think it's great. I think if people hate you that much, you're doing something right. You don't want people like the David Ehrlichs of the world to like you, especially if they're having inappropriate relationships with children or have a history of it. You want them out of your system, out of your community, you certainly don't want public money going to them. But up to this point it has, and it's made a joke out of the entire industry, and it's embarrassing, and it's time for us to fix it, and we are. And it's going to be a fun ride, one that we've been looking for a long time. Can't wait. Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, talks about all this stuff. Talks about being a ghost and living in the head of your enemies, which is where you want to be all the time. I think you'll love it. And we have a good day. See you later.